Let's do some NBA trade reviews on this fine evening. Starting with the blockbuster that happened super late. I meant a day before training camp. That was Cat going to the Knicks. So I got first off, we'll start with Cat going to the Knicks. B plus. Reason center, obviously the big need, especially just any big. They lose Hartenstein in free agency. You were not going to be able to pay him the 29 mil Oklahoma City did, and then you have Mitchell Robinson out until December, and honestly doesn't play more than 60 games anyway in any given season. You have Precious, who is smaller, and that was really all you had going into the season. So big was definitely a need. Does Cat solve that perfectly? Yes, perfect fit. He's been playing amazing for the Knicks too. We have a few games to judge this on, 7 to 8, depending on the team, maybe a little more. The problem is depth, and that was the one thing that the Knicks had over pretty much every other team in the NBA. They had the best depth in the league. And through various trades, the Mikal Bridges trade, the losing Hartenstein, this trade especially, you lose a lot of that depth. And that is the reason they're getting a B+, because now they went from having the best depth in the league to their depth being okay. And I'm not trying to make fun of the guys on their team or who are coming off the bench for them. It's just when you're at number one in depth and you move to middle of the pack in depth in the league, it is a big loss. Minnesota, A. Only reason it's not an A+ is because trading away Cat after the season they just had, him being there for 9 years, it's tough. But they win it from a basketball perspective, and they win it from a financial perspective. And they get a first-round pick in this too. From the basketball perspective, the one thing I had with the Timberwolves was their depth going in. I really hated it. And I mean, what did you have? Nickeil Alexander-Walker was your main guy. Nickeil Alexander-Walker played great for them. He's really, really good for them. I'm not trying to make fun of that. But that's really all you had. You had Leonard Miller, who hasn't played for you. You had Rob Dillingham, who's rookie. Luka Garza. It wasn't a great situation. Now you had Dante DiVincenzo in that mix. Great. That's honestly the best you can ask for. He was third and sixth man. He's gonna be up for sixth man again. So that's great. Then Julius Randle, you could slot in that starting lineup. Oh yeah, and they had Naz Reid for depth. Sorry, that's my bad. I thought of him as a starter. I keep forgetting they have Gobert. So yes, they had Naz Reid for depth, but still you have Nickeil, Naz Reid. That's like 7 guys. Now you add an 8th guy to that rotation with DiVincenzo, and you slot in Julius Randle to the starting lineup, who fits well. Love the fit, and then the financial. You were gonna really struggle financially with Cat's contract, especially with you're paying McDaniels, you're paying Gobert, you're paying Ant, or the contract I don't think is hit yet, his extension, but it will soon. Has he even gotten an extension? Yeah, I had to, right? And for the Hornets, just threw them in there just because they were a part of this trade. Always good to get free draft picks for doing nothing. Next trade. This was a sign-and trade. Usually I wouldn't count a sign-and trade towards these, but here I will just because this was a decently big one. And that is the DeMar DeRozan trade that ends up with him in Sacramento. Quickly on the Bulls, they get an A for, again, facilitating. Any facilitation is an A. You're usually just getting players or draft picks. You get Tris Duarte. Maybe you can try to find the form he had, especially in his rookie year in Indiana. DeMar, the fit is, it's weird. It's a weird fit in Sacramento. I mean, Sacramento needed to make a move. Underrated team last year. I don't think they got enough credit for the season they had because they had 46 wins. It ended up being the 9 seed only. End up losing in a play-in, but 46 wins is a lot of wins. They go and add DeMar, but the thing is, it kind of solves their 2 biggest issues, which is shooting and defense. And DeMar DeRozan is not known for his shooting and his defense. So you're kind of getting another mid-range shooter, which maybe don't really necessarily love the fit in Sacramento. But again, he's a great player. Great players will make it work. And then Harrison Barnes, Spurs take on the Harrison Barnes contract, which was the position they're in. Right now it's not that bad, and again, get draft compensation. So, again, facilitation. But I really just wanted to talk about the DeMar trade in this one. Next, this was the first trade of the offseason, was a straight-up swap for Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. Don't see many of these nowadays, just straight 1-for-1. But that's how we let off in talking about this 4 months after it happened is weird, but the season just started. So for the Bulls' perspective, I kinda got it. I'm gonna say got because it's so long ago. I'm using past tense. I kinda get why you would get a guy like Josh Giddey. You're going to suck, and you can just be like a I don't want to say a rehabilitation center for him because he did struggle at the end of the year, but Giddey has been a decently good player. It's more been the off the court stuff that has been the problem. But he can kind of lay low in Chicago. Laying low in Chicago, I know it's a big market, but lay low in Chicago. Just get better on a worse team. Try to get to a form that we have seen he can be, especially in the first season with Oklahoma City. And I get that, but Alex Caruso was apparently fetching top 10 pick interest, and you trade him for a guy who Oklahoma City may have given away for free if they had the opportunity to. So I'm going to give it a C plus only because you can turn Josh Giddey into something. He is 10 years younger, but what they could have gotten hurts this so much. And for the Thunder, oh my God, what a fit. The defense on the Thunder was already the best in the league, so why don't you just add a top 5 perimeter defender in basketball to that? It's pretty good. He hasn't played yet this year, unless he got injured like game 1. I know he hasn't been playing. He's not in the starting lineup right now. Oklahoma City is dealing with some injuries right now, but they already have the best defense in the league without him playing. So by considerable 10-point per game margin. So their defense can be historically good, especially in this modern NBA. So obviously A+. I would give even 10 pluses if I could. This was my favorite trade because I hyped up DeJounte Murray going to New Orleans the entire offseason, and it happened. And why isn't it an A+, I'll discuss. Hawks got a decent return. I don't think they got enough credit for the return. They got a Dyson Daniels who, you can try to develop. Maybe not the best guy with Trae Young because he really is just an athletic facilitator, and you already have Trae Young as your main facilitator. But he's been hooping. He's been hooping so far beginning of the year. A few other depth pieces. 2 first-round picks, though. 2 first-round picks is pretty good. Not really favorable first-round picks, but they're 2 first nonetheless. So they'll get an A- for me. Pelicans only get an A for one reason. DeJounte Murray in New Orleans is the most perfect fit ever. They were really struggling finding a main lead guard. CJ was not that. They had Alvarado, who's pretty good, but is he good enough for what the Pelicans want to be? No. And not to hate on the guy. DeJounte Murray is. He's perfect fit. His defense has dropped off in Atlanta. His ability as a playmaker wasn't really on full display because having Trae, it was horrible. It was a horrible fit in Atlanta, which is also figured into Atlanta's great because they just needed to get rid of him. It just did not work. The defense hopefully will slowly, will find itself back in New Orleans to the level where he was as a Spurs. He was also averaging like eight assists in San Antonio. So as a playmaker, yeah, and through the first 2 games of the season before he got hurt, was looking like that guy as a facilitator. So I love the fit. The only reason it's not an A+ is because you traded Larry Nance and Cody Zeller, who were 2 guys you played as bigs, and that was the main problem, just like we discussed with the Knicks. Another problem the Grizzlies faced too. 3 really big teams, including the Pelicans, who faced a lot of challenges with big man depth, and New Orleans did not fix that at all. They trade away 2 of them. They lose Valanciunas, so you're starting the 20th overall pick, Yves Missi. So, and Zion will presumably play some 5, so that's the only reason it's not an A+ is because trading 2 guys you played at the 5 that's the position that hurts the most does suck. Now we got a smaller one. This is Hardaway going to Detroit and Q Grimes going to Dallas. I give both teams an A because Dallas had to get off of Tim Hardaway Jr. His contract is everything. So you send him to Detroit, a team with a lot of cap room. You get back Quentin Grimes, who hadn't been playing great, but he's been a 40% shooter at times. He can play your Tim Hardaway Jr. role for nothing money-wise. And then Detroit, you're in a position where you can take on salary. You get a veteran guy. a rotational piece who you can actually play, and you get pick compensation, which always love pick compensation, which has become a very common theme here because of the amount of teams that do it. Now, this trade disgusts me. How could one trade Lindy Waters away? Shame on Oklahoma City. They get an F, obviously. And Warriors could not fit the amount of pluses I could give on the screen. They get an A+. And Portland gets cash. Everybody loves cash. Nah, this is a joke. If you know, you know. Now we'll get into two trades that are going to connect to each other, mainly through Brooklyn. We'll start off with the Mikal Bridges trade. The Knicks get a C. Hating. Definitely hating. I'm a Nets fan, by the way. So there's no bias in there. 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges is insane. Almost impossible level of a compensation that Brooklyn could ever imaginably get back. I was hoping for, we get like Memphis to trade us 4 firsts or something, but 6 first-round picks? Yeah, it's too much. It's too much for Mikal Bridges. It's just too much. I know you're going to have to pay extra to get him from Brooklyn, and I know you really want to have that Nova Knicks thing, even though you traded DiVincenzo away like 2 months later before they even played a game. But it's just unexcusably too much. And the player to fit is perfect. It's perfect. That's the reason it's not an F. It's I love Mikal. He's a great fit in New York. Just as a perimeter defender, 40% 3-point shooter. Even though his jump shot has been whacked throughout the first few games of the season. 6 first-round picks is just way too much. And Brooklyn, congrats. You pull off the biggest fleece job you can ever imagine for Mikal. You get Bogdanovich, and who cares who else you get in this? 5 full first-round picks. I think one is a top 4 protected Milwaukee pick in 2028, which the way the Bucks are looking, could be an incredible pick, but the protection may honestly hurt it more. And you have New York's picks until 2030. It's really good for Brooklyn. And I had one other point I wanted to make. Oh, yeah, you have picks. It would be really funny, really, really funny if the Knicks try to pry for Giannis for years and Brooklyn uses their picks to try to get him. This is me shouting. This is me yapping. But imagine if Brooklyn gets Giannis with New York's picks. It'd be really funny. Now the connecting trade, which I'm also going to give Brooklyn an A+, because they get back the golden ticket, which was their own first round picks from Houston, and they have to do it without giving them. I thought this trade would only be happening if Mikal Bridges was going to Houston. Well, they ended up trading Mikal anyway, but I thought it would be Mikal for the Houston picks, and that would be something. That'd be it. But they get other picks from Mikal plus their own picks back. You lose the Phoenix picks though, which sucks. This is a complicated mess. But you basically lose the Phoenix picks, or you lose your Dallas picks, or you lose whatever. It's just a lot of swaps in there. You've essentially lost your Phoenix picks. We'll just say it like that, which they can end up being really good. So that sucks. But especially with the draft class coming up, and with the state of your team, you had to do this, and you only get 2. So you basically are giving yourself 2 years to get better players, or to get generational type players that you can just start building off of right away, because Houston still owns Brooklyn's 2028 fully. But I expect the Nets to be at a level where they're not a lottery team by then. So I just really want to trade. I was so happy when we made this. I was so happy when we made the Mikal trade. And then 20 minutes? No, it was not 20. It was like 2 hours later. Announced this trade. You trade away Mikal, and then you get the golden ticket. So it's like what a masterclass from Brooklyn. Here's a little draft night trade that we really haven't gotten to see a lot of because Rob Dillingham has not played for Minnesota, which makes this trade even more concerning. But this is the second time I'm giving a win-win trade because if you're Minnesota, you want to win as close as possible. And I'm not saying win now because you are not drafting Rob Dillingham to win now. You're drafting Rob Dillingham to have him in 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, whenever, 4 years, whenever Mike Conley decides to retire. He's your Mike Conley replacement. You can have him be mentored under Mike Conley. So you hope he's the point guard of the future, or at least, while in this window, he's your starting point guard for a championship level team. So I really do get it there. And San Antonio kind of got clout because why don't they get Rob Dillingham? They don't necessarily need to. I mean, you drafted Stephon Castle. You just got Chris Paul. I know he's a very temporary replacement. You have Trey Jones. You're not in the, and I know they didn't have to draft Rob Dillingham here. But that future compensation can be used for trades or in 6 years, that can be 6-7 years. Anthony Edwards' contract is done in 2030, which I know is why they got the 2031 pick. Maybe you're hoping Minnesota's bad then, and he's left. That pick can either be really valued down the line, or it can be a trade piece. And the last trade, which also happened on draft night, would be Deni Avdija going to Portland. Now, these grades are completely predicated on the fact of what we have seen in the first 7 games of the season. Because if it wasn't, this would be an A+ for Portland. It would be like a B for Washington. The fact that we have seen the 7 games changes. Portland, and also just generally just having, second thoughts, more time to think about these trades. I love Deni. I love the fit of Deni in Portland. But for a first-round pick, now you'd be like, in this draft class, first-round pick, I get that. And that's why they're getting an A-, because I do love Deni in Portland. I do love all of that. I'm pretty sure they also paid him, too. It's just, for Washington more, who that pick turned out to be. Carlton Carrington has been playing out of his mind. They've started him. He is the youngest player in the league. And so far, he is like the 3rd best rookie. And I know we're 7 games in. But if he is going to be as good as he is playing so far, that's a steal. I mean, it's an absolute steal. You can tell Washington is so heavily tanking considering they are playing their 3 rookies. They're playing like 4 guys under 20 years old or 21 years old, which is pretty insane. And then they have Jordan Poole too. So I honestly don't hate it for, not only don't hate it for Washington, I really like it for Washington looking back on it because Deni was just not going to be in your plans anyway. And then you get Malcolm Brogdon there who can be a trade piece at the deadline, a mentor. So yeah, this grade is the one that would absolutely have changed the most since the day it happened. Most of these, I had the same opinion when they actually got traded. This one completely flipped, especially how Carrington's been playing. But that's my yap. Kind of weird to do trades at this point, or trade games at this point. I just wanted to do it. So thank you all for watching. Join the Discord. See ya.